Hello, I'm Adam Liaw and welcome to The Cook-Up, a nightly news program, but all the news is about cakes. Tonight we are making lemon drizzle cake, fig ricotta and raw honey tart, and an upside-down apple cake. Let's meet our guests. Tasting Australia Festival Director and co-owner and chef of McLaren Vale's renowned Salopian Inn, Karina Armstrong says that she bakes obsessively. She also loves food that tells a story, so I can't wait to hear what her ingredients say tonight. Hey, Karina.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Writer, composer and performer Eddie Perfect has won awards for his work on Broadway's Beetlejuice the Musical and legions of fans for his appearances on shows like Offspring and Play School. He always cooks to music, so we might hit him up for a soundtrack for tonight's show. Welcome, Eddie.
Thank you.
I love musicals. Did you know that? Like,
No,
I love them.
All right, well, this is great.
Or burst into song. Do you have a favourite musical that you have not written yourself?
Well, it's hard to pick a favourite, but I have musicals that totally shaped my life. There are 3 musicals.
Yeah.
Sweeney Todd by Stephen Sondheim, The Pirates Penzance by which is an operetta, obviously.
Yes.
Gilbert and Sullivan operetta. And the first record I ever took out of my dad's collection and put on the turntable to listen to was Fiddler on the Roof.
Oh. Wow, okay.
And never heard Jewish folk music in that way before. So
yeah, right. Karina, are you into music at all?
I am. I love music. We always have music on at the restaurant or at home, and it's such a diverse listening. You know, I've got a 17-year-old who's into punk.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's everything from that through to classical. It's everything.
Like a lot of people like to cook with music at home. Can you cook in a commercial kitchen with music, or is it too distant?
Absolutely. I actually think it's essential.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Let us find out what we are going to cook in this kitchen. Each peach, pear plum, I spy, fruity bakes. Karina, you love baking.
I do.
I used to hate it. What do you love about it?
I like that there's process and you know what the process is. So I did my apprenticeship at the Lake House and I did a lot of pastry work there, and Alla taught me about discipline, process. And so something in that, when you're doing something, I find it like I know what I need to do.
Yeah.
And then you bend the rules a bit.
Eddie, are you a baker?
I'm a recent baker, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, emerging.
And because of the fact that it is quite technical and measuring and stuff like that, I've avoided it because I don't like to measure stuff. And then I changed my whole kind of diet recently, and now I'm like obsessed with sweet things. And it's opened up this whole new world.
Usually when people of our vintage change their diet, it's like, I've stopped eating list of things. It's like, now I'm eating heaps of sweets. Like, I like that change.
It's the all sugar diet.
Well, I have something fun for you coming up because I am making a lemon drizzle cake. Lemon drizzle cake is one of those classics, and I think it's, I don't know, scientifically, I think it works so well because you've got cake, obviously, but then you've just got this sweet and sour. There's the sweetness of the sugar and obviously the sourness of the lemon kind of combines for something that just works for all of us. Super, 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 it honestly couldn't get more simple than this, I think. Butter, slightly softened, and sugar, and then we just beat that up. How important is this step in baking, Karina?
Very, very. So this is where you're going to aerate, you're going to change the butter up a bit, but you're going to really beat in some light fluffiness into your cake.
I've kind of been amazed at how important this step is, and I think this step was probably the thing that brought down, quite literally, a lot of my cakes.
Yeah, it's so important, and that scraping down in between and getting it really together is amazing to give the cake.
I like that soft touch.
A
that
good
kind of,
consistency.
You know, Karina was just like, you should scrape down your bowl, Adam. But she said it in a way that made it feel like it was my idea.
Yeah. I thought that was very clever.
Yes, boss.
Obsessive, sorry. Obsessive baker. I did call this quite early in the day.
What is actually happening when you're doing that?
The granules of sugar are tiny little cubes.
Yeah.
And so the corners are actually going to trap a little bit of air inside the butter so that once everything else goes in, you can't even tell that it's happening. But as the cake goes into the oven, those tiny, tiny little almost droplets of air that are in there are going to double in size. So you're going to get a huge amount of lift from something that doesn't seem like you're going to get a lot of lift in there. So now eggs going in. Why do you do the eggs one at a time? I've never understood that.
You want to emulsify it in. So think about making a mayonnaise, the same thing. If you add everything together, you're not making space for that emulsification to happen because it's too quick. So you want to gently add them in. So one at a time is always better. It just gives it that moment to take it up and then you add your next one.
Oh, okay.
Same with choux pastry, same with any of those.
Yeah.
Always one at a time.
Just to me, it overwhelms me because I like to understand what I'm doing cooking-wise, and I don't understand. I know the basics. I don't understand, you know, everything that to a level I think I need to. All right.
Oh, it's like watching a
know.
A campfire or something. I'm obsessed.
Yeah, I know.
Hypnotic.
You know the sugar's coming.
Yeah, I think this is my historical aversion to baking, is I have I don't know if you can tell, but I'm a bit of a know-it-all. And I hate being wrong. And you've just got to be wrong a lot when you're starting to learn to bake. You just got to have disappointments and failures and, I don't know. Flour, sifting that in, not with the machine because you don't want to develop too much gluten, although you could do it slow, couldn't you?
You could,
Yeah.
just, you know, a couple of turns really slowly, but there's something really nice about, you know, being in touch with your batter, like does it need a bit more or a bit less? Yeah.
Who would know?
Yeah.
I have no idea. But this is, you know, we've just thought through or overthought a very, very simple 4-ingredient cake here. But it's nice to be amongst friends and chat about stuff that I feel a little out of my depth on.
I love all the magic of it changing. That's like what's exciting.
So as that comes together, I've got my zest of a couple of lemons there. I'll put that in. And here's the point where I'm starting to get scared because I'm thinking I'm going to start overworking the batter, but the zest is not quite combined, but I'm just going to leave it as it is.
A lot of things sort themselves out in the tin as well.
Lined loaf tin. All right. Just give that a little push to help it along, but it will, as you say, Karina, sort itself out in the tin. You just don't want to waste any of this stuff. This is all good stuff.
I feel like Eddie will lick the bowl anyway.
See, I'm having this old childhood disappointment whenever my mum would use like a spatula like that and get everything off the bowl. I'd be like, well, this is the worst day of my life. As soon as she brought that spatula, it was the end. It was the end. I'm going to stick my tongue in that paddle.
All right, okay.
Baking is so nostalgic.
I know.
It's such a comforting thing to do. Yeah.
Into the oven. Do not open the door for at least 40 minutes.
Yep.
It's probably going to take between 40 and 50 to cook. But if you open it too early, that's when you're going to get like a bit of sinkies in there. Some icing sugar. Karina, where do you stand on pure icing sugar versus mixture?
I always use pure icing sugar because you can add the corn flour in if you need to stabilise it or add a stabiliser in. But I like the pure icing sugar.
So this is the juice from the lemons. The zest has gone into that guy, and this is the juice. So I'm just going to mix this together, try and get out some of the lumps. It's always going to be a bit lumpy, but I'm okay with that. There should be a helpline for this kind of stuff, because every time I bake under some duress, I am surrounded by people who are very good at it. So, you know, I've had people like yourself, people who just know all the things that I am thinking about in my head. I guess that's what, you know, most people have grandmas for, you know. So quite a watery drizzle, but when my cake comes out of the oven, I'm going to poke some holes all over the top of it so that this sort of sweet, sour syrup can go in to my cake.
Such a great way to get a moist result.
Yeah, it feels like cheating. Like a lot of, you know, the cake purists are like, you know, soaking cakes and stuff is cheating. And I'm like, great, okay.
Yeah.
I'll cheat.
I'm into that. More cheating as far as I'm concerned. Now, I've drizzled most of that, but I have reserved some of it because I'm going to make sort of a more thick drizzle for the top to give us that classic kind of lemon drizzle thing. And I'm actually going to use a bit of caster sugar for that because I want that almost grittiness texture on the top there. So a bit of caster sugar in, and now a bit more of my icing sugar. Karina, what's some advice that you give to young chefs?
To take your time, to work with people that you feel comfortable with, but also teaching you discipline, teaching you good skills, and cook food you love. So if you love fine dining, go to a fine dining restaurant. If you love rustic, produce-based food, then find that chef.
That's a really cool thing to consider, because sometimes I think young chefs always feel like fine dining is they always just need to do it, but there's lots of different ways to cook, and I don't think I could be a chef in a restaurant, because it just, you know, I'd miss making food at home a little bit more. And I'm doing all of this in the tin. So once it cools down, well, you don't have to cool it down before you soak, but then cool it down before this drizzle. And what we end up with is this guy over here. So I'm going to try and do this in a extremely ungainly fashion, but we leave the overhang on the lining so that it can come up and out. And now, see, putting the caster sugar in there gives you that kind of little bit of extra texture on the top, which I really, really like. And now this cake is going to...
So you're just going to magic it, just like...
You've seen this show before.
Yeah.
It's going to come out there. A little bit of a tidy up, a beautifully moist, slightly textural lemon drizzle cake. A little bit of sinkage in the centre, but not too bad.
You can't taste sinkage.
No. So true. The lemon's fantastic.
I really do like that texture of just a little bit of gritty sugar, rather than just it being a straight drizzle.
I love the kind of crust you've got like, all the way around it. It's really yummy.
Oh, it's that buttery goodness as well. And it's so interesting in dessert, like in savoury food, we talk so much about balance. But this, to me, has that beautiful acidity balance up against that butteriness. It's, yeah, delicious.
After the break, Karina and Eddie's Fruity Bakes. Welcome back to the Cook Up. Tonight we have asked Chef Karina Armstrong and composer Eddie Perfect to partake in our Fruity Bakes. Karina, what is your Fruity Bake?
A fig, honey and ricotta tart.
Nice. And Eddie?
I've got an upside-down apple cake happening.
Right, upside down and right way up. Let's get it done. Upside down apple cake. You ever tried making it right way up? No, just kidding. How do we start?
You just put the butter in the bottom of a greased pan.
Yes.
And spread it around. And then once the butter's down, you can just sprinkle over your brown sugar. And during the cooking process, it just becomes...
It'll become a caramel.
Becomes caramel. It's a little... Oh, gosh, that's just fingers in there.
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's too late now. So, yeah, you sort of kind of putting it down.
fantastic.
And then if you make it like this, then it's not so much like you don't have to dip your fingers into weird sticky...
So, in fact,
caramel.
It's a smarter way of doing it, not just the lazy way of doing it.
Work smart.
Yeah.
Work smart. That's it.
And then apples, what's...
Well, I've soaked
You've done something to them.
Yeah, I just soaked them in a bit of whiskey, but also with some cinnamon and nutmeg.
Okay, great.
And then this is the part of it I really enjoy, because this could take 15 minutes, it could take 3 hours. You're basically making a pattern on the bottom that's going to, when you turn it around, will have a nice pattern. So if you're into mandalas or mindfulness, this is a good way.
When you're writing a musical, is it easier than writing normal songs or more difficult?
I find the combination of music and storytelling just sort of absolutely infinite. And as a person that loves music, being a contemporary musician doesn't appeal to me, because you have to choose which box you sit in at the record store. But this is like, I can write, big band Latin swing, I can write hip hop, whatever music does the job, tells the story, that's what we're going to do.
All right, I've got an idea. I'm going to come back later. I'm going to tell you about it. So prepare yourself. Karina, this tart sounds amazing.
Great. That's good. I love making pastry.
Yes.
And I really enjoy making pastry with stone ground flour.
What's the difference?
It's not as processed, essentially.
Okay. You can see the bits and stuff.
And it's got that nuttiness to it. And I've also put some almond meal through this one. So that's, again, texture, nuttiness, being a nut.
I will say, with a lot of wholemeal type things, with my juvenile palate, quite often I'm like, don't really like that as much. But when it comes to pastry and bread, I'm very much a wholemeal guy. Like for me, I'm not big into brown rice.
Yeah.
I like white rice too much.
It's just that depth. And when you're doing like we're doing today with the ricotta and the quark, you're adding up layers. It's like you're making a dish, but in a tart. I'm rubbing in the butter here. So
Yes.
It was all at room temperature. And you want to get a nice little crumbly mix. And then we're going to add the egg yolk, sour cream,
okay,
and chilled water. I love sour cream in pastry.
What does that do?
It's lazy puff pastry.
Okay.
It's, yeah, it gives it a really nice buttery texture without doing all the lamination.
Yeah, right.
That's just about there. And what I'll do is I'll just add it all at once.
Oh, okay.
I would rather add it all at once because then I'm only mixing that pastry. I'm not going 1, 2, 3, if that makes sense, because I don't want to overwork it. I don't want to develop the gluten.
Yeah.
And there is enough fat here that's going to inhibit a lot, but we don't want too much.
I get scared that I'm gonna like over moisturize my pastry at this point.
This is a bit maverick, isn't it?
Yeah, okay.
It's a bit wild. So I'll just pour that in. I'll just bring that back a little bit. And that'll just come together. And just as it's coming together, I'll pull it out. I'll just work it a little bit on the bench just to bring it together. And then we'll rest it. Then I'll roll it into a tart shell.
Roll, line, blind bake.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Eddie.
Okay.
Patterns created.
Yes.
And this is the batter.
This is the batter.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my idea, right?
Hit me.
I love karaoke.
What do you love about karaoke?
Well, I'm not like a singing in front of a crowd person. Like I kind of, when I lived in Japan, it was just a thing that we would do. You know, go out to have a few drinks and then end up in a room with some friends and sing some songs. So instead of choosing songs or whatever to sing in, like, you know, people choose terrible songs all the time.
Always.
I would like a karaoke place that you could go to and just go, today we're going to do an entire musical. You know, like, for the next 2 hours, we're going to do start to finish.
I love
Beetlejuice.
Yep.
And you could either do it all yourself with your friends, or you could cast it. You know, you sing the parts of, you know, what's his face, and you sing parts of that.
I love that. You turn up, you're Jean Valjean.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right. What else is going in here?
In here is also a little bit of vanilla. I'm allowed to stick that in now? I don't know what the rules are.
No, apparently you always put the essence in with the fat. So you got the butter in there. So the flavouring goes in, because then it gets distributed throughout the fat.
That's great. All right. I think that's almost...
Yeah. Is that good?
That's all the wet bits.
Oh, okay. There's dry bits.
There's just a bit of dry bit. Oh, my God, I never used one of these.
Yeah. You know,
this is exciting. All right. We're adding in flour,
Let me
obviously.
tap that in there. Don't want to lose that guy.
A bit of excess schmutz, we don't want that.
Yep.
Okay. So I think this is self-raising, isn't it? I don't know. Hopefully.
Probably.
Just use whatever. This just goes straight on top. You don't want to ruin your total crazy mandala spiral.
I love the aroma of the spice that's coming off that.
It's forgiving. It's a forgiving cake, which I need, because
I think when you bake with apples like this, it's always great and it's always forgiving, because the apples actually provide, like, that's quite a firm batter, but the apples provide extra moisture. And then that's going to go in the oven and bake.
That's it.
Beautiful.
Here we go.
Too easy. Karina, so the lovely
Done.
pastry.
Yep. Ricotta.
Ricotta, yes.
Quark. And then I have...
Quark, okay.
Quark. So German cottage cheese,
Yes.
essentially, but beautifully acidic. Really, really nice lift in cheesecakes, and I like that it's not that straight, sweet kind of texture,
And
if
it's
that
a
makes
smooth
sense.
cottage cheese, right?
Right.
Not the crumbly one
Yeah.
that terrified everyone as a child.
Yeah.
Okay.
The figs I'm warmed in some raw honey. So we have our own beehives at Slope Inn, so I have a real love of raw honey and that really great taste of whatever's around.
Yeah. So they're sort of like not rehydrated, but semi-rehydrated in honey. Okay.
But you could sub in like peaches, mulberries, anything on top of this.
Yeah,
It's like there's a really good base foundation recipe and then you can pop whatever you like on top.
Amazing.
So just some sour cream, some egg yolks. The sour cream I just like because it's a bit lush. And it's lovely. And then I've just drained some of the honey off.
Other countries miss out by not having our sour cream.
Yeah.
Because in other countries, like sour cream or will have a much lower fat content
Yeah.
than our sour cream does. But the higher fat content means that we can do stuff like use it in pastries and use it in these kind of fillings.
Yeah. And I've just popped a little bit of vanilla in there, but I'll just pop a little bit more because it's good stuff. And just blend it through. And all we're going to do is blend it until it's smooth. Super easy.
Beautiful. What are these bits in here? I forgot to ask you.
That's just the fig that's come out of the, So you get that little bit of fig through it.
Okay.
But, you know, you can imagine if it's mulberries, you get like that beautiful juicy stain. If it's peaches, I just cook them a little bit first. But you just bring that together nice and smooth. That'll do it.
Figs, when you cook them, can sometimes be a little problematic because they are so juicy.
Yeah.
And so this is, I think it's quite genius using the dried figs in this.
And that means, you know, it's all year. And there's something so nice that after figs, you know, I really look forward to that seasonality of anything.
Yeah.
But once the figs are gone and it's the middle of winter, you can enjoy your summer. And then these figs that we've cooked down, we're just going to pop them on top and you can have a bit of fun here. We'll pour over the rest of the honey and then bake. But it's that sweetness of honey, you know, the acidity of the cheese all together.
When we return, it is time to find out how these fruity bakes taste, and we'll show you how to prevent your pastry from shrinking when you bake it. Welcome back to the Cook-Up's Night of Fruity Bakes. The stakes are high for Karina Armstrong and Eddie Perfect. Karina, are you nearly finished?
I am. I'm just drizzling.
Amazing. And Eddie, this looks fantastic.
I mean, this is it.
Well, the mandala is not yet gone to the wind.
No.
So,
It's still looking pretty.
That looks so
And of course,
moist and juicy.
yeah, a bit of hot cold vibe
Yes.
is good. That's it. I love it.
Gorgeous. Whoa.
Yes.
Gorgeous.
Some really nice raw honey over the top. And then a sprinkle of salt.
Quite important, I think.
Yeah, it gives balance, and I love that little moment of when a dessert just has that flicker of salt. Just brings energy to a dessert, and it's just such nice balance.
I like the way your eyes lit up when you said that. A fig ricotta and raw honey tart and an upside-down apple cake. Yum.
Yum.
The caramel is what makes that. That's delicious.
I just love the visuals of it.
The texture's fantastic. Really good.
Spicy.
The tart.
Oh, wow.
Yum.
I like how it's not too sweet and then you get that crazy honey and then the figs and it's really good. It's because
And that little sprinkle of salt on the end, all important.
Yeah.
Well done, team. Well, it's time for an Ask Adam question. And tonight's Ask Adam comes from Vanessa.
Hey Adam, my name's Vanessa and I'm a home baker. But I've been making apple pies and the pastry keeps shrinking when I bake it. How can I stop this from happening?
Vanessa, thank you so much for your question. And I thought because we have a bona fide baking expert here in the kitchen today, that instead of me answering it, we get Karina to do so. So, Karina, how do we stop pastry from shrinking once you get it into the tin?
So we've made our pastry, however you make it, when you bring it out and you're bringing it together,
Yes.
we don't want to work it too much. So you're just bringing the pastry together lightly. Sometimes you might need a little bit of flour on the board, but we're just simply bringing it together. And I would just wrap that. And I would chill between every step. So once Vanessa rolls it and she puts it into the tart case, you chill it again.
Okay. What about lining the tin? Is there any sort of hot tips for that?
Lots.
Okay.
But one of the most essential ones is really working the pastry right into the corners of the tin.
Yeah.
You can see on this tart that we've done a great job of just getting right into the corner. Because you imagine if something's across the corner, it's going to shrink down. So you've got to get that corner and chill it again once you've done it. Come right up to the edge, even pastry, chill it again. And then blind baking, the same thing. Get your paper out. I scrunch my paper up, put it back in again so the paper's worked into the corner, and then I put my loading on top and then I bake.
The paper in the corner, that's...
It's all about the corners.
Thank you so much for joining me. It has been fruity and delicious.
It has. It's been a blast.
A lot of fun.
Make no mistake, sweet dreams are made of this. And those dreams will all come true with these truly delicious fruity bakes. If you want more of the Cook-Up and more delicious food ideas, head to SBS On Demand. I'm Adam Liaw. Thank you for watching the Cook-Up.